The recipe for this March brown spider is from a book called the English Lake District Fisheries. It is edited by Maxwell and Aflalo. I'm using some darker cobbler's wax to wax this gold thread. The recipe actually calls for a dirty yellow for the body and a straw silk for the rib, which is said to be heavily ribbed. I don't have what might be considered a yellow silk or even a straw silk, so I'm going to use this gold and use the darker silk or the darker wax to make the dirty, what I'm going to interpret as a dirty yellow, and a lighter wax to do the rib and just use the same silk. I am going to put 3 layers of silk for the body, wrapping first back towards the bend of the hook. The bodies on these spiders are generally short and slim. So half the hook shank, maybe 2/3. So down to the hook bend, back up to behind the eye, leaving room for the hackle and head. Back down towards the bend of the hook. And then I will wax that same thread with a blonde wax and get a slightly different hue, and then spiral wrap it forward. It says heavily ribbed, so I interpret that to mean that the ribs are fairly close together. Then I will use the darker wax again and wax the thread that I'm going to use to tie in the hackle as well as wrap the head. It is a March brown, so I have a brown feather from the back of a partridge. I'll pull off all the fluff material from the bottom end of that feather. Well, I broke the hackle, but that's okay, or I broke the stem. But I'm going to pull off quite a bit of the bottom barbs as well. Also, considering that the hackles on spiders are fairly sparse, I'll grab the tip of that hackle feather with my pliers, pull back on the barbs that are not going to be the hackle. Try to get that separated evenly. And just kind of take a look at how many barbs I have on there and see if I can kind of guess to what I'm going to need when I'm finished. Go ahead and clip the end of that feather to create just that little triangle, and I'm going to tie that triangle in. And then I'll use my hackle pliers, particularly since I broke the rachis on this feather, and now it's very short. And I'll just wrap. Can pull back on those barbs a little bit as I wrap them too. I do want them to stand up mostly. So I'll go ahead and wrap that stem or rachis in until I'm out of barbs, and then I'll wrap over the top of just the rachis. I don't want to catch the hackle barbs at all because they need to stand up, not be pushed back towards the back of the hook. Then I can let go of that stem. I'm going to pull back on it and just wrap under it to catch it in. See if I can snap it out. Now, I've found that these partridge feathers have a very stout, stiff, strong stem. So I'll clip that out. See if I can get that clipped as close to the head as possible. And then I'm going to put a little bit more wax on that silk. The wax makes it so that I don't have to put a head cement on it. The wax will just hold. And then I want to start that again. Having that waxy thread makes it sticky, and then it wants to grab the hackle barbs. So separate those hackle barbs away from the thread. Just push back on them. They want to stick to that waxed thread, and I don't want that. Okay, I'll have to fluff that after I do a 3-turn whip finish. Being careful not to catch. But the wax holds that thread in place, and so there is no need for a head cement. And then just push my scissors against the thread, and then I can take my bodkin or pick and pull out those feathers. Get them to stand up at least for the picture. And then when this is fished, those hackle barbs will pulsate, laying back down against the body, but then pulsate and giving it that living appearance, either of an emerging March brown, or it could even be like a drowning spinner.